In a world where eating a magical fruit from the skill tree can give you amazing powers, Light hoped for something cool like Firebender or Sword Saint. Instead, he got the totally not epic title of Nutting Master. On the big day, Light and his best friend Lena were excited as they headed to the church. Light dreamed of being an adventurer, happy with any fighting skill, while Lena didn't care what skill she got as long as she could stay by Light's side. They both had high hopes, but fate had other plans. The Holy Sister at the church explained how the skill fruits worked. Take a bite, and you get a power for life. But there was one strict rule: only one fruit per person. Eating a second one was fatal. Lena was nervous, but the sister assured her that one fruit was perfectly safe. Lena went first. She bit into a fruit, and suddenly, her body glowed with power. The Holy Sister was amazed Lena had gained the super rare Sword Saint skill. It meant she was destined to become one of the strongest adventurers in the kingdom. Light cheered for her, proud and excited. Then it was his turn. Light picked a fruit and bit into it, hoping for something useful. Instead, he got the skill of Nutting Master. His dreams of being a great adventurer were crushed. The Holy Sister tried to cheer him up, but the truth was clear: his skill was for farming, not fighting. Light begged for a second chance, but the sister reminded him of the deadly rule: no second fruit. Lena tried to make him feel better, even offering to stay in the village and farm with him. She didn't care about being an adventurer as long as they were together. But the Holy Sister had other ideas. Sword Saints weren't meant to grow nuts, they were meant to fight monsters. She insisted Lena leave for the royal capital to start her training. Lena promised Light she'd come back for him one day. 3 months later, Light was doing his best to adjust. His Nutting Master skill let him grow big, healthy nuts, which he sold in town. But he didn't make much money, and it wasn't the adventurous life he'd hoped for. One day, he saw a poster of Lena. She had already become an S-rank adventurer, famous for her incredible strength. While he was happy for her, it was hard not to feel like a failure in comparison. And so, Light's life became one of quiet farming while Lena rose to greatness. Dreams of adventure, gone. But at least his nuts were the best in town. Light spent every day training, hoping hard work would unlock some hidden sword skill. He'd swing his sword at a tree stump, convinced that splitting it in half would prove he was strong enough to be an adventurer. But instead of glory, all he got were sore wrists and a bruised ego. Lying on the ground, he wondered if Lena even remembered him. She had promised to come back, but with her fame and success, he figured she might have forgotten all about him. That's when Aya, a little girl he'd taken in, showed up with a cup of water. The village chief had left her on his doorstep one day, and Light, seeing she had nowhere else to go, decided to take care of her. She told him dinner was ready, and Light, grateful for the distraction, joined her at the table. As they ate, Aya asked how the harvest went. Light proudly said it went well, especially since he'd started growing skill fruits. But he warned her never to eat them. He'd even labeled the boxes with skull emojis to make it clear they were dangerous. Aya nodded, but then casually mentioned she'd already used some in the stew. Light froze. Wait, what? He panicked, realizing he'd just eaten a second skill fruit, which was supposed to be a guaranteed death sentence. Clutching his chest, he collapsed to the floor, apologizing to Aya for expecting her to understand the labels when she couldn't even read yet. But then, nothing happened. Light sat up, confused. He should have been dead, but he felt fine. Just as he started questioning things, he got a sharp headache, and a wave of power surged through him. Meanwhile, Aya started feeling strange too. Suddenly, she could see words floating in the air, describing Light's Nutting Master skill. Turns out, his skill had an unexpected bonus: immunity to all nut-related poisons. Aya had also gained a skill and appraisal ability that let her read the details of other people's powers. Light was stunned, but one thing was clear: his life as the Nutting Master just got a lot more interesting, especially with Aya by his side. Aya keeps reading Light's skills and notices something surprising. he has a second ability called Sword God. This skill boosts his attack power with a sword and gives him crazy magic resistance. Light is thrilled. Maybe this means his dream of becoming an adventurer can finally come true. To test it, he grabs his sword and runs outside to the forest. With one swing, he not only splits the tree stump he's been training on, but also the massive tree behind it. Yep, Light is officially up now. The next day, Light and Aya head to town so he can join the Adventurers Guild. He's pumped to see the notice board covered in bounty quests. Completing quests means money, better gear, and delicious food. But more than that, he wants to see how his Sword God skill performs in a real fight. While Light heads to the front desk to grab a quest, he tells Aya to wait on a bench. Aya, being curious, uses her appraisal skill to check out the people in the guild. She's amazed by all the cool abilities, but also amused by the useless ones like a guy whose skill literally harms himself. Then, a commotion breaks out at the front desk. Turns out, Light is arguing with a rude adventurer who recognizes him as the nut seller from the market. The guy mocks Light, saying he doesn't belong in the guild. Light brushes him off and tells Aya they're leaving, which only makes the guy mad enough to swing a sword at him. Thanks to his Sword God skill, Light blocks the attack effortlessly. The guy, completely shocked, was apparently ready to commit murder over some bruised ego. Luckily, his friends convince him to back down, saying it's a fight he can't win. Embarrassed, the guy pretends he wasn't serious and leaves with his group. With the drama over, Light and Aya pick up a quest and head to the rocky plains. Light is excited to finally see a real monster. When they spot a slime in the distance, he cautiously approaches, but the slime notices him anyway. Light charges in, slices the slime clean in half, and accidentally splits the ground too. While thrilled his skill is so effective, Light realizes he needs to tone it down to avoid unnecessary destruction. Aya congratulates him on his first successful quest, but they still need to collect slime parts to cash in for a reward. Feeling bad about cutting up the slime, Aya hesitates until Light reminds her they can afford pizza with the money. Suddenly, Aya is team dissection. Just as they're finishing up, they hear shouting. Rushing to the source, they find the rude guy, Jean, and his party under attack by a massive ogre. Apparently, they had taken an easy slime quest, but got more than they bargained for. The ogre swings at them, forcing everyone to scatter. Spotting Light nearby, Jean hatches a genius plan: run straight at him, pass him by, and leave him as bait. Light, realizing their cowardly move a little too late, is now stuck facing the ogre alone. Luckily, this suits him just fine. He needs to test his shiny new Sword God skill anyway. As the ogre swings its massive club, Light dodges to the side, but Aya reminds him that while his skill boosts attack and reflexes, it does nothing for defense. One hit, and he's toast. But Light's no quitter. Determined to become the world's greatest adventurer and reunite with Lena, he leaps into the air, gets a feel for his newfound strength, and slices the ogre's club in half. In one dramatic motion, he follows up with a clean, devastating slash, cutting the ogre in two while Jean and his crew watch slack-jawed from a safe distance. Back at the guild, Light exchanges his items for cash, though the receptionist is skeptical about his claim of soloing an ogre. To prove it, he shows her the ogre's horn, and Jean's friends begrudgingly vouch for him, confirming the story. The receptionist finally accepts it and gets his reward ready, while Jean's buddies awkwardly thank Light for saving their hides. Then, the guild buzzes with excitement. An S-rank party has just returned. To Light's shock, this includes Lena, who he hasn't seen in 3 months. He approaches her, thrilled to say hello, but Lena's response? "I've never met this man before in my life." Light is stunned. Lena forgot about him in just 3 months. He stands there, speechless, while Aya tries to figure out what's wrong. To cheer him up, she suggests getting pizza. Light agrees, but his mood is still gloomy. Frustrated, Aya warns him that if he doesn't cheer up, she'll eat all the pizza herself. Not wanting to waste the food, Light starts eating too quickly. He ends up choking. Thankfully, a stranger hands him a glass of water. When Light looks up to thank them, he freezes. It's Lena. Before he can say her name, Lena quickly covers his mouth and whispers for him to be quiet unless he wants Gruz to hear. She joins their table, and Aya introduces herself, excited to meet Lena for the first time. Lena looks like she wants to ask how Light has made so much progress, but Light jumps in first, proudly explaining that he and Aya became adventurers. He also tells her about the skill fruit incident, which gave him a second ability. Lena smiles, happy for him, but her face falls when Light asks how things are with her elite party, Sacred. Lena admits the pay is great, but the team is awful. She explains how they're just a group of strangers forced together by the Holy Sister. She shares a story about a mission 2 months ago where they fought a giant serpent. Serpents are weak to fire, so Gruz told their mage to use a fire spell. The mage did, but also set a nearby farm on fire. When Lena pointed it out, Gruz didn't care, saying the job was done because the serpent was dead. The Holy Sister cared even less, saying all that mattered was that Sacred would go down in history as heroes. Lena doesn't go into full detail, but Light can tell she's miserable. He invites her to join him and Aya, but Lena turns him down, saying she can't leave Sacred. Even though she says she's fine, Light notices her eyes tearing up, not wanting to make her feel worse. He lets it go, and Lena excuses herself. Later, Light collects his reward for defeating the ogre 10,000 gold pieces, more money than he's ever seen. But even that can't distract him from worrying about Lena. Aya suggests they go talk to Gruz directly, and they notice his lounge door is wide open. Inside, Gruz is sitting with 2 women, bragging about his adventures. He tells them about a recent mission where his team fought an evil grizzly. According to him, the mage blasted it with fire, and then Gruz delivered the finishing blow, making himself sound like a true hero. The receptionist interrupts Gruz in the lounge with a complaint from a village he recently helped. Turns out, during his mission to take down the evil grizzly, the fire magic his team used dried up the village's reservoir, leaving them without water. Gruz dismisses it as collateral damage, claiming it's part of the job. Secretly, though, he enjoys causing trouble for people he considers beneath him. Light overhears this and is furious because he knows Lena would never ignore innocent people's problems. He confronts Gruz, demanding he let Lena leave Sacred since the group is clearly making her miserable. Gruz laughs him off and calls security to kick Light out. Aya checks on Light, who's fine, but others warn him not to cross Gruz. Messing with him means getting on the Holy Sister's bad side, which can ruin an adventurer's career. The next day, Sacred is gathered in the lounge, bragging about themselves as usual. Lena remembers Light's words about following her moral code and finally works up the courage to quit. She announces she's leaving Sacred immediately. Before she can leave, Gruz steps in her way, threatening to kill her for defying him. Lena grabs her sword but realizes she can't win against him. She's forced to back down, and Gruz slaps her to the ground. He gives a smug speech about how she should keep pushing forward for the greater good, basically a guilt trip to stay under his control. That afternoon, as Sacred prepares to leave town, they're stopped by Light. Gruz asks why he's in their way, and Light declares he's here to take Lena back. He reminds her of the promise they made to become adventurers together and invites her to join him and Aya on their next hunt. Lena wants to go with him but feels too weak to fight Gruz. She tells Light to leave before he gets hurt. Gruz tries to send Light away, but he refuses and challenges Gruz to a duel for Lena's freedom. At first, Gruz laughs it off, but when Light taunts him about being scared, he agrees on one condition. If Light loses, he'll be banned from the Adventurers Guild and the city forever. Light accepts without hesitation. Lena begs him to back out, knowing he's no match for Gruz, but Light won't budge. Gruz draws his sword, and Aya scans him, warning Light about Gruz's Godspeed skill, which lets him close distances in a flash. Light draws his sword too and claims his skills are Nutmaster and Sword God. Gruz doesn't believe him and attacks instantly. Light barely blocks the first strike. Gruz launches a relentless barrage of attacks, forcing Light on the defensive. Every time Light creates some distance, Gruz teleports behind him like an annoying mosquito with superpowers, kneeing him in the ribs. Light admits Gruz is absurdly strong but refuses to give up. Charging forward, Light swings. Gruz sidesteps, shatters Light's sword, and declares the fight over. Feeling smug, Gruz offers Lena a twisted deal. He'll spare Light if she swears undying loyalty to him forever. But Light tells Lena not to worry, he's got this. With no weapon, Light scans the area and grabs a broom. Gruz is insulted, assuming this is a joke. And maybe it is, but Light is dead serious. Instead of borrowing Lena's sword, he bets on the broomstick and envisions it as a blade. Adopting a new strategy, Light stops chasing Gruz's moves and lets his sword god reflexes take over. The moment Gruz dashes in, Light smacks him in the face with the broom so hard that Gruz flies into a brick wall. Mic drop. Light wins. To make his victory clear, Light warns the other members of Sacred, "Mess with Lena again, and you're next." Turning to Lena, he tells her she's finally free and invites her to join his party. Overwhelmed and happy, Lena accepts. A week later, Light is recovering from his duel and loving life with Lena on his team. She's even making lunch for the group, which is a dream come true except for one little issue. The Holy Sister has started sending messengers to discuss Lena's departure from Sacred. Lena refuses to go back, but their rebellion has consequences. Now, every quest they're offered is a bottom-tier nightmare: clearing sewers, rebuilding houses, or finding lost cats. These jobs barely pay enough for a few pizzas, but Lena is happier than ever, finally helping real people. Light doesn't mind the grind either, especially since Lena's smile makes it all worth it. Meanwhile, back at the Holy Sister's cathedral, she's plotting. She plans to assign Lena's party an S-rank mission, the most dangerous kind. Whether it's a genuine challenge or a thinly veiled death trap for Light, only time will tell. And that's the end of episode 2. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to find out if Light can survive the Holy Sister's deadly schemes.